Good afternoon and welcome. Thank you all for being here today. I also want to thank my fellow members, Mr. Doggett from Texas and Mr. Byer also from Virginia, as we join together to lift our voices to raise awareness about the alarming arrest of U.S. citizen and Virginia 10 constituent Asim Ghafoor in the UAE. Here in Northern Virginia, Asim is an active and beloved member of his local Muslim community and a board member for the nonprofit organization Democracy in the Arab World Now, or DAWN, which advocates for democratic reforms in the Middle East. He was also friends with and provided legal representation to Jamal Khashoggi, who was brutally murdered by Saudi officials in 2018. On July 14th, as Mr. Ghafoor was transiting through Dubai International Airport with his family, he was detained by UAE officials. Unbeknownst to him, he had been convicted in absentia of mysterious and currently unsubstantiated charges in the UAE. He was subsequently sentenced to 3 years in prison. Mr. Ghafoor was provided no information regarding his charges. He was given no opportunity to defend himself, and although he has a rehearing scheduled for August 1st, he has not been permitted to meet with his attorneys. Furthermore, it has been reported that Mr. Ghafoor has contracted COVID-19, and as a diabetic, he could suffer serious medical complications as a result. We do not know what, if any, medical care Mr. Ghafoor is receiving, and we are very concerned by the UAE's refusal to allow Mr. Ghafoor to speak with or see his attorneys or his consular services. It is deeply alarming, and given Mr. Ghafoor's role as a civil rights attorney and well-known advocate for democracy in the Arab world, it is deeply suspicious. I, along with many other members, have called for greater transparency into Mr. Ghafoor's detention and have advocated for fair treatment and due process. Today we reiterate those basic demands and to guarantee Asim Ghafoor's health and safety, that he be granted immediate access to counsel, consular services, and his family, that the UAE ensure that he will receive humane treatment and fair treatment, including immediate access to required medical care, and third, that he be released on bail while he is awaiting his trial. In my district and all across the country, members have received outreach from concerned constituents who either know Mr. Ghafoor personally, who have heard his story, and fear for his safety. I want to thank all those who have helped us shine a light on this case. We share those concerns, and we are here today to join you in your advocacy. Asim Ghafoor deserves fair treatment, he deserves real access to consular and legal resources, and he deserves to be released while he awaits trial. We will continue until we have the answers that we are demanding, and we will continue working with the State Department and embassy officials to ensure Mr. Ghafoor has the rights he deserves. And finally, I encourage all of you to continue lifting up your voices and shining the light on the injustices being done to Asim Ghafoor. Your advocacy is powerful and is so needed in this moment. I want to thank everybody for being here. I do have a couple updates. Very recently, yesterday I believe it was, Mr. Ghafoor was able to make a phone call to a local relative of his, very brief local phone call, and when that relative attempted to connect him to his attorneys, the call was cut off. Then also, I believe yesterday, or maybe earlier today, he was allowed to have a 3-minute phone call with his attorneys. Now, that was not a substantive phone call. They did not get into the substance of his case. My understanding is that attorney cannot enter his appearance on his behalf until he receives a signed paper from Asim, which he has not been able to get to him to explain what that is. So, at this point, Asim is supposed to have his retrial on Monday, and he hasn't had any access to his attorneys. So this is something we're demanding that he receive as just a matter of basic due process. Thank you very much, and I'll now toss it to Don Byer to say a few things.
Thank you, Jennifer. Thank all of you for being here today. And I stand here with my colleagues, especially the stalwart Congresswoman Wexton, to bring attention to the case of Asim Ghafoor. He's an American citizen, he's a Virginia resident, and a former legal counsel to Jamal Khashoggi, who was arrested by the United Arab Emirates earlier this month. He was tried in absentia, as Jennifer said, and according to reports, without his knowledge, by Emirati authorities, and didn't have the opportunity to defend himself. He's been in Emirati custody since July 14th, and we have learned, obviously, that he's recently contracted COVID. Unable to contact his attorneys, and most importantly, recent attempts by U.S. officials to contact him, a U.S. citizen, have been unsuccessful. His appeal date, as Jennifer said, is set for August 1st, but my colleagues and I are extremely concerned that he will not be able to adequately defend himself from the so far unsubstantiated charges against him. His treatment by Emirati authorities is unacceptable. Mr. Ghafoor's basic human rights and right to due process must be respected. We're calling on the UAE to release him on bail immediately and provide him with access to legal counsel. I'd also like to note that these charges don't take place in a vacuum. The UAE has a history of committing serious human rights violations, including arbitrary detentions, poor treatment of detainees, and suppressing freedom of expression. Mr. Ghafoor is a board member of the rights group Democracy for Arab World Now, which has been critical of the UAE's human rights record. This case raises serious questions about the Emirates' motivation behind this conviction and behind Mr. Ghafoor's treatment. Thank you again for your time. I'd like to introduce my distinguished gentleman friend from the Ways and Means Committee.
Thank you,
Mr.
Don.
Dyer.
Well, we've got a little UAE type weather here today, and what we need is a little American justice in the UAE. I'm here in support of the important leadership of Congresswoman Wexton, and because of calls I received from friends of Mr. Ghafoor, who was once a resident of Austin, my hometown, when he attended the University of Texas Law School. When an American citizen is detained abroad like this under such mysterious and apparently deceitful circumstances, there's every reason for us to be concerned. And when that citizen has shown the courage to be an attorney for journalist Jamal Khashoggi, who was butchered by the Saudis and the current Crown Prince MBS, there's every reason to be concerned about the type of treatment that he's receiving. As a United States citizen, as an attorney, as an advocate, and as a friend of many, not only in Virginia but across the country, we are calling on the UAE for fairness. Strange that he's convicted even hardly before he gets to the UAE, and we have concern that he is not subject to torture and that his health needs are being met. We want to stand together, and we do so coincidentally on a day when President Trump is currently working overtime to elevate the murderous regime of MBS and enrich himself with a wretched golf tournament up in New Jersey. We're calling on the administration to speak out and use every tool at its disposal to get immediate relief. We provide the UAE significant security assistance, significant protection, and they need to afford every American citizen the same protection. So with the full backing of this Congress, I hope that the Biden administration will act aggressively, will make this a top priority to protect him. Let's keep raising our voices for human rights everywhere and speak up, particularly on this case, to see that we get immediate justice. Thank you, and I'm pleased to be joined by a key member of our caucus, Mr. Swalwell from California.
Thank you, Lloyd. Thank you, Ms. Wexton and Mr. Byer, for your work to stand up for a Virginia resident, a former Texas resident, and as someone who represents one of the largest Muslim American populations in the country, in Fremont, California, where we have Little Kabul as a gem community in our district, we're very concerned. And just like my colleague, I've heard from a number of constituents about this detention. And I have to say, UAE is an ally, and the United States, generally the default is to respect when an ally detains any person, because we presume that perhaps they have evidence against that person. But that presumption is completely taken away, and that presumption has doubt cast upon it when you see the conditions that Mr. Ghafoor is suffering through, that his health could be in decline because of a COVID condition, that he is not able to meet with his attorneys, that he's not been given information about the charges against him, that he's been indicted in absentia, and that's not how an ally should treat another ally's citizens. And so here today we are saying, allow Mr. Ghafoor to put up bail, tell him what his charges are, let him meet with his lawyers, provide the health care that you would give to anyone in your own justice system if they were indeed sick. But that has not been the case. According to Mr. Ghafoor's attorney, he's not heard anything about his conviction before his arrest, and he has yet to see any documentation. The dubious nature may, unfortunately, as my colleagues have alluded to, be politically motivated. Mr. Ghafoor is a board member for the nonprofit organization Democracy in the Arab World Now, DAWN, which advocates for democratic reforms in the Middle East. And his advocacy is similar to his former client's advocacy, Jamal Khashoggi, which also raises concerns about how Mr. Ghafoor is being treated. Continued denial to meet with his attorneys is unacceptable and a barrier to his ability to defend himself. So I join my colleagues in calling on the Emirati government, an ally, as was pointed out, of the United States, a country that receives billions over the last 10 years in security and economic assistance, a country that wants to expand its trade with the United States and its security partnerships. I call on the Emirati government to afford these rights to Mr. Ghafoor, allow him to seek bail. Finally, he must be allowed regular access to his family and the United States Embassy visits to ensure his continued health. Again, I thank my colleague for her advocacy on behalf of her constituent, and for her to know that her advocacy to my Muslim American constituents means the world, because they know as a community that they are often targeted, and it hurts them and it pains them to see one of their own detained in this manner. So thank you.
So we're happy to take any questions if you guys have any. If anybody has any questions.
You answered them all.
I think we did.
Any response from the White House?
No, we've not heard back from the White House. Senator Kane wrote a letter which we signed on to earlier this week. We haven't heard back from them yet, so we'll let you know as soon as we do.
Thank you, Jennifer.
Thank you.
Thank you all very much.
Thanks, Eric. Thanks, Lloyd.
Thanks, Eric. Thanks, Lloyd.